Hi everyone, this is Jamil, host of Fathernetics. This channel is all about fatherhood, family, and everything in between. But before we jump in, do me a favor. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share with some friends. This is how we keep growing this community, making sure that the voices and the stories that we share on this channel can reach others who may need it. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
You could never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see that you'll never ever find somebody.
All right, guys, I want to welcome everyone back to our podcast. Today is a very special episode as I have the opportunity to welcome my uncle to the show to get a very good perspective on fatherhood as it pertains to my family. My grandfather, who was always very strong and present in my life as a kid, had the opportunity of raising kids of his own, hence me having a father and an uncle in my life. So I wanted to really give him an opportunity to introduce himself and then do some probing, if I will, because I think all of us have an opportunity to have parents in our lives, good, bad, or indifferent, but we never really know the before we were born, right? We kind of know our parents after we were born, through our youth growing up. And then as adults, we become really good friends with our parents, and we hear stories every now and again of, them growing up and certain things that they've gone through. But just like us, they were human beings before they were our parents, right? So there's
right.
there's a wealth of history there of how they've seen, the growing up process and how they have addressed parenthood based on what they've seen in their lives, what they saw culturally. For you, perhaps it's more of a regional thing, right? Born and raised in Panama. So there's a lot of culture there that we don't necessarily see here in the US. So real quick, introduce yourself. Tell us about maybe some of your history, how many kids you have, and anything else you want to volunteer is more than welcome.
Okay, well, again, my name is Crispin Mayers, Jr. Dad gave me his name, which is I carry it proudly. And in fact, I gave it to my first son, Crispin the third. And my second son, he wanted to be Crispin the fourth, but we ended up not doing that. We ended up giving him part of his
I mean, like George Foreman.
yeah. We ended up giving him part of his mom's uncle's name. So he ended up getting part of his uncle's name. So with that said, I have two boys, Crispin and David. Grew up in Panama. Went to Paraiso Junior Senior High School. You may have heard that mentioned before with Jamil's dad. Graduated in 1972. Small class, about 100 or so. A little bit more than 100 or so.
Well, that is a cry from what we see in
Yeah,
graduations today here in the United States. I think we went to Bryce's graduation yesterday, and it was pretty close to 1,000 kids.
I couldn't believe the numbers.
I
could not believe the numbers. Like, wow.
Yeah.
So after that, like I said, I graduated in 72. We graduated in the early part of the summer for us. And by September, I went to college that same year to Doane College, Crete, Nebraska. Small liberal arts college, and spent.
So let me ask you a question. You went to middle school in what Americans would consider kind of junior high in Panama.
In Panama,
And
Paraiso.
then in Paraiso,
Yes.
and then graduated, and then went directly to the United States to do college work.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And like I said, went there to Doane College, Crete, Nebraska. Today it's called Doane University. And spent 4 years there, graduated in 76. While there, I had a degree in business administration. Played tennis there, walked on the tennis team, played tennis. Eventually lettered in tennis at Doane. Great opportunity to do that. Had a great coach. Fortunately, that coach was someone that mentored us. He explained tennis as a mentor. He mentored us in life through tennis. and I got a lot of valuable information. And what that did, it basically added on to what my dad laid the foundation for. You know, a lot of strong, positive, go get kind of things, and understanding psychology of dealing with people, which was very interesting because.
So tell me something you remember about that, because I think that's interesting. When you say that, it in my head, although I've never had a football coach, it kind of reminds me of how the kids would reference the football coaches in movies, of being like the dad figure, and I learned so much from that individual. So I'm curious as to, you know, if you remember one or two things from your tennis days.
Well, let me give you a perfect example, understanding the psychology of how to understand and relate to dealing with an opponent on the other side. And one of the things he taught us was, you know, before you start a match, you warm up. You do your warm-ups and that. And he said, never show your opponent in your warm-up what you're going to do in the game.
Oh, okay.
So
Because they're watching you warm up, right?
they're watching you warm up and want to know what your strengths are,
Okay.
and what your weaknesses are. And so you would warm up, and I'll never show you the shots that I have.
Okay.
I would just show you that I can stroke a ball with you. And when the game starts, and you're showing me what you've got.
Right, because they probably don't have that.
They don't have that kind of
strategy
strategy instilled in them. So I'm taking notes of what you've got and what I have to do to counteract that.
And
So
they're seeing
what I've
everything
got.
you've got.
Yes. And one of the things is, when I was in college, I had a very good spin serve, meaning that my second serve is usually your spin serve, one that would give you a higher percentage of accuracy to get the ball in play. In practice, I would practice everything as if it's my first serve. Everything would come 80, 90 miles an hour, just flat hard. Never hit a spin serve. So when we get in the game and I hit a spin serve, it's taking you 2 or 3 games to adjust to that.
To understand where it's coming from.
Where it's coming from and how to defend against it.
But you would practice that off, not necessarily warm up, but you would practice that on your own.
That's
isolated.
something I practice in practice.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had that as part of my repertoire, as part of my game, but you never knew that. I'll give you an example of how that worked out. When I was stationed 29 pounds, because I was in the Marine Corps, and we'll get to that, I played this young kid in a base tournament. And you could tell he was a club kid. He got lessons in clubs and everything, and he had some of the beautifulest strokes. And we're in warm-up. I could keep up with him, strokes. And I was stroking, we're just stroking the ball, bam, bam, bam. And when the game started, I didn't hit one hard ball.
Oh, you changed it up on him.
Beat him 6-1, 6-0.
Wow.
Because he never saw my spin serve, which he saw once the game started. And he never saw my soft game. And it just rattled him. So all of that to come back, the psychology of understanding people, you don't show them everything you got. And you watching what they've got, developing strategies to counteract that.
So how does that translate once you became a father, knowing you had these nuggets of gold, if you will? How does that translate into either how you interacted with your kids or how you may have shared that with them in whatever circumstance they were dealing with?
Well, I shared it to them the same way I shared it with you, as an example, as parables, telling them, giving them examples that if you're interacting with your friends, you've got to understand what they're doing, understand where they're coming from. You don't always give them your side, your point of view, unless it's absolutely necessary. You know, you've got to keep your perspective at a certain point close to your vest. And so that's how I built on what my father gave me. Now, what my father gave me when I was growing up was, he gave me some basic and clear-cut foundational principles. Tell the truth. Be confident in what you believe in, and be willing to understand and realize that you made a mistake and own up to it. Telling the truth. One of the things, this is a parable he gave me. He says, you can have a stack of Bibles of your truth. You've been telling the truth, and you have a stack of Bibles. And you tell one lie, and that can crumble that stack of truth.
Yep. You pull a book from way below, and you have to start over.
It's like Jenga.
The big blocks.
The big blocks.
The backyard.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing with that was, and I equated it. I gave my son an example. I said, well, suppose a police officer pulls you over, and you could be in the right with everything you have done, and you do one thing wrong that's against the law, and that could derail everything that you did right. Mm-hmm. So something I picked up in listening to a pastor that I was listening to, he says, never make provisions for failure.
Right.
Never make provisions for failure. So if you do something that will put you in the wrong, you have just made provisions for failure. Mm-hmm. And I told my boys about that. So my dad always talked about telling the truth, because a lie, you have to remember, first you have to remember all the lies you told. And then if somebody is skilled enough, they'll ask you the right questions that eventually it'll trip you up. Mm-hmm. And that lie cannot be sustained because it's not based in truth. So he always said, tell the truth. He gave me strong conviction. He says, believe in what you believe in. However, to have that strong conviction, you need to have research what you believe in. You need to understand what you believe in, and you stand by it. The thing about that, too, though, is you may have missed something. Mm-hmm. And if you miss something, that could make all the truth and all the research that you've done null and void. And be willing to say, oh, I missed that.
So this is more around making sure your research that you're doing is comprehensive.
That's correct.
You're looking from different perspectives, different angles. And I think that blends well into what we're trying to capture for this podcast, right? We're trying to make sure that we have an opportunity to get insights from a lot of people,
right? Because
parenthood isn't black and white, right? It changes from week to week, from month to month, from year to year. Especially in the last 20 years that I've been alive, it's been the technology boom, of all time, right? So one day you're doing one thing. We have the big Motorola phones, like I used to see my dad walk around with, right? Yeah. And now we have a computer that blends as a phone,
yes,
right? That sits in the palm of our hand. So while we have the opportunity to get all the information that we could possibly need, now we're in a situation where we are having to distinguish whether it's the right information.
Yes.
And now it requires you to go 5 levels deep and really kind of say, okay, I understand this. This makes sense. This doesn't make sense. Let's find out why it doesn't make sense. I find myself now having those conversations with my kid, who is almost 12 as of this weekend.
That's right. That's right.
So making sure that he understands those pearls of wisdoms that I got from my dad, right? And I'm sure your kids have now gotten from you. Do your research, but don't stop at page 1.
Right.
There's page 15 that probably has the information you're looking for. So with that, I would ask, what are some of the qualities that you saw in your dad that you feel like you've taken on and continue to have today, like the impressions that he's made on you that have said, this is the kind of father that I want to be?
Well, it's a big thing was respect. Mm-hmm. One, he respected my mother.
And Grandpa had a lot of respect too. He had a lot of people that respected him, which was always kind of fancy to see.
And he respected everybody.
Yes.
He respected everybody. Mm-hmm. And if you did something that didn't deserve that respect, you would know it. Mm. And that was very seldom. because if you sow a certain seed, you're going to get that back. And because he respected everybody and treated everybody with dignity, it was easy when people got around him, their whole demeanor, their whole attitude changed. And I saw that.
Why do you think that is? Where does that come from?
It's that kind of reciprocity,
Right,
so to speak.
right.
It's biblical. You sow a seed, you're going to get whatever seed you sow, you're going to get in return. So you sow kindness, you're going to get kindness. I walk down the hall at work and I give a smile and I get a smile. And the minute I can see the change, the minute that person passes you, that smile is gone. But my smile is genuine and I'm giving it to you. And it's up to you to receive it. And automatically the reciprocity just builds up and comes out. So it's just sowing seed. You sow a seed of whatever it is, friendship, you'll get that back more than likely, more times than not. And people sense that. If you do it genuinely, that's what you're going to get back. He respected my mom at all time, at all costs. That helped me in respecting women, my wife, and understanding the caring for, quote unquote, the weaker sex. And not mean to demean that. That's just physically, and that's the way it was meant to be. We're supposed to care for them.
Well, it's a sign of the times, right?
Right.
Where that was the misconception of the day.
Right.
Grandpa today would have been, how old? He'd be in his 90s
Right.
at this point. So,
Right.
I mean, he was born at a time where some of these changes were starting to happen, and I don't think he's ever.
No, he would have never
He was
changed it.
ever sat in that, right? He's always been very forward thinking
Right.
in the way that he approached not just women, but certain things in life. And I think that a lot of that emulation that you're referencing is how he sowed that into at least his grandkids, myself, my sister, my brother.
Yes.
We saw a lot of that based on just the behavior, that's just how he was.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there wasn't any kind of like, what was he before? Or, no one kind of knew anything different.
Right. That was
So
his
if
nature.
he was that way, if he was different before, no one knew that.
Yeah, that was his nature. Another thing that I want to bring up that he taught me about is respect to authority. One thing he would have never tolerated, and we never tried it because we understood, we would never disrespect my mom. My mom, I could never and would ever attempted to call my mom by her first name. That was total disrespect.
It's so awkward to do. I've done it once or twice. Like if we're in a crowd and I'm trying to get my mom's name and mom doesn't work, then I have to use her name. And
Right.
It's like, wow, who is that? Who am I? Yeah, so I get it. And I think that's pretty prevalent in the Black culture as well.
Yeah.
Being very unapologetic in my commentary here, but I see a lot of white kids who are free to address their parents by their first name.
Yes.
And that's them. I don't judge. You do you. But it always strikes me as awkward, when they're like, yeah, call me Karen. And I'm like,
yeah.
My dad was sitting here. It wouldn't work that way. So I've never really gotten accustomed to it. So
Yeah. And that, in carrying on with that or expounding on that respect of authority, I respect. When I was in the Marine Corps, you understand rank structure, and I respect the rank structure, but I don't necessarily have to respect the person because that person
good distinction.
there's a distinction because that person may abuse that rank that they have. And I found myself in a couple of situations like that where when I was stationed in Japan, my immediate boss, he was a rank above me, but I respected that at all time, but I didn't respect him as an individual. So what that did was he had to ensure that any interaction he had with me had to come along the lines of his authority. Because immediately, if he stepped outside of that bound, I would let you know. I won't make provision for failure. I won't do anything to have him say I disrespected him.
Right.
But he would feel silent contempt.
And sometimes that's enough. I mean,
That's
that
enough.
bugs some
Yes.
people. That's that pebble in the
Yes.
shoe, right? I can't
Yes.
get this guy to.
Yes.
Yeah. I get you. I get you.
So, or if I got pulled over a couple of times with a police officer. One night I went to pick up my son at work, and I got pulled over. The cop said I ran a stop sign. Okay, sir, I must have missed it, kind of thing, you know. And he said, "Can I see your license?" Sure. Here's the license. Here's my registration. Addressed him as sir. That's such an easy word to use. My goal is, and I learned, is you diffuse a situation. One, if you're showing respect, and I'm respecting his authority as a police officer. He may not be the best person as a police officer, but I respect that authority. I respect what he represents, the authority that he represents.
And a lot of times that's all it really is with,
Yeah.
with some of these police officers is, do you respect me or not?
Right. And they're itching for a fight. You know, they're itching to have you make that provision for failure. You know, I had that.
It's the give me a reason. in
Yeah,
the
give me a
movies, right?
reason. Give me a reason. You know, I had that situation when I was, again, Marine Corps. I had a lot of experiences. I was on an audit team, and I was the senior officer on an audit that we did. And we came back from the audit, and we had missed something. You know, me and the auditors that went out with me. And we missed something, and the command came back and said, "Hey, you guys missed that. You need to rectify that." And my officer in charge of the team is like, he was like ready to fly off the handle. You know, who did this? And I'm like, sir, I was a senior person in charge. If I missed it because it had to come through me, I don't care who did it. He's like, no, well. See, he was looking for me to try to make an excuse. I didn't do total diligence. And I owned up to it. And because I owned up to it and not try to pawn it off on anybody else, the situation was diffused. His response was, "We need to be more careful." Yes, sir, I understand that.
Yeah, kind of threw him for a loop.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
So something like that quality of owning your mistakes seems to be a more one of those topics that we try to teach our kids very early on.
Right.
I think kids find it hard to learn that earlier on because they're not really understanding the consequences of their actions. And sometimes the consequences to us as adults are small and insignificant, right? So we tend to, okay, we're just going to let it go. So we missed an opportunity to engage and teach them. As kids, I think it's bigger for them because their world is smaller. Right. So, you know, for example, my kid has a cell phone now. So when that cell phone is no longer accessible to him, you know, the world's coming down, it's crashing. But this is also an opportunity to teach be responsible, always be honest,
Right.
take, accountability for your actions. And when you don't, here are the results of that, right? Consequences are negative. Consequences are positive.
Yes.
And I think in today's world, when you use the word consequence, people automatically think of negative, right? It's a
right.
consequence. So we try to teach and model some of those behaviors with our kids. And it sounds like Grandpa did a great job of trying to do that with his kids.
Oh, yeah.
So there's three of you. There's my dad, there's you, and
Yes.
there's your sister, Angela, who takes care of Grandma now in Panama. So I guess I would be curious to understand, what did you as a father earlier on, or maybe even today, find challenging or unexpected as a dad?
The influence of their peers was always a challenge. One situation, I I try to explain to my boys, or especially my eldest boy, because my youngest came along, and my wife took care of him more than I did, because he was born in Japan, and she came back with him because of his he had a medical condition that he had to take care of, and I had to wrap up what I was doing in Japan before I came back to the States. So my eldest and I had more interaction, and I had more time to really infuse in him a lot of those values, those kind of things. And the challenge was really getting him to focus on, you have to stand fast to what you've been taught. You know, the principles that you were raised with, and stick to those. And you've got to really fight off the urge to say, okay, everybody else is doing this, and I should be able to
Peer
do
pressure.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
the peer pressure kind of thing. And so that was one of the major challenges. One time, my eldest son missed that point, or had a lapse in thought about respecting your mother at all costs. And we had come back to Nebraska, and we're in an apartment where we lived at for a while. And his mother was trying to get him to do something, and he said something to her and stormed off down the hallway. And before he knew it, I was breathing down his neck.
I was like, what is behind me?
I said, if you ever disrespect your mother like that again, you will not see the end of it. And he realized, like, I learned that. Why did I have that lapse?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know, so it's stuff like that. You have to reinforce it, and continue to reinforce the facts, the things that they were being taught, to ensure that, because they're constantly having that pressure daily. So when they come
The
home, you have to
expansion and contraction.
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to neutralize it every time they come home. If you see any hint of something that is contrary to what you are trying to have them to learn or understand, you have to not ignore it and say, no, it's not a passing fancy. It's something that you have to address, and you have to constantly, and you do it with love. My dad, I understood. Somehow I was able to understand the restrictions that were placed on me as a kid, based on the things my dad did. My dad ran little league bases with me. We would run, start off a home plate, and one runs the first thing, and he run with me. He'd play catch with me. We played ping pong. I mean, we were a vicious ping
He
pong
loved some
challenge.
ping pong,
Yes,
yeah.
we played ping pong all the time, and he'll challenge. So he did. We swam. He taught me how to swim. He taught me those things. So that interaction that I had with him reinforced the things that he was teaching. He says, if you do these things, and it wasn't necessarily carrot on a stick. It was, that's what he did.
Emulating.
Yes.
Just being himself. Right.
And in saying, okay, these are the things that I know I want to do with my son, and these are the things that I'm going to do with my son, and he did. So those things reinforced the teachings and the discipline, that he brought to us.
So intentionality is one of the things that we talk about on this podcast. Obviously, dealing with modern families, much like myself, Nicholas, my husband, Jacob, my son. Our process of becoming parents was one that required a lot of intentionality, right? Because there's a process.
Right.
You have to sign up for A, and you have to attend B, and you have to sign, C, your life away, and backgrounds. And so by the time you actually get a kid, there has been months of work already done that's
Right.
more on the administrative side, if you will, that's slightly different from a traditional couple
Right.
that may wake up one day and find out I'm pregnant, or
Right.
we're going to have a kid. And now you have 9 months to get your mind right, if you will. But what I've discovered is intentionality, not just in your interpersonal relationship, but with your kids, is where the secret sauce is. if you intentionally spend that time with your kids, emulating
Yes.
the behaviors that closely mirror what you are trying to, put out there in the world, if you will, then that comes through. And I think there's a negative side to that as well, right?
Right.
Because there are parents that are intentional, but they're not really teaching the right things.
Right.
And,
That's correct.
And then that shows up on day one. Your kid goes to school. We get it from Jacob all the time. I heard this kid say that, or this kid's using the N-word, or that kid called me this name. And it's, kids don't wake up one day doing these things. Right? They are replicating what they've seen unaddressed at home. And I say unaddressed because maybe the parents aren't doing this, but the friends of the parents are doing this, and it wasn't addressed.
Right.
So I think it's fantastic to hear that your dad had that intentionality of making sure not everything is a teaching moment, right? We don't have to sit down and go, ABC. This is how we are. This is how you should be. This is how you react to that. This is how you have emotional intelligence. Here's how you behave, not just with your spouse, with your friends, with your whatever.
Right.
So it's encouraging to see, or to reconfirm, if you will, because I'm part of that equation, right? I'm benefiting from that by way of my dad as well. So with grandma still being alive, she is 96 this year. She's 95. Which is fantastic. It just tells me how long I'm going to live. Right?
Yeah. You're talking about intentionality, and at no point did I feel my dad was saying, do as I say, not as I do. There was never a conflict in, as you're saying, what he did and who he was with what he was telling me to do, or teaching me. It was always, okay, he did that. I wouldn't have done that, based on my outside influences.
Made a different choice, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But that's what he did. And another thing that was reconfirmed the principles and the things that he stood for and things that he did. A lot of the kids came to my dad for advice. They wanted to be around him when we played ping pong. My house was, there was always a whole bunch of kids around the place playing ping pong. He participated in whatever we did sometimes, there were kids always gravitating towards him. I didn't see many dads around that were doing those kind of interaction with their kids. So that was an impact. Like, okay, I've got something special going here. I wasn't able to really articulate it and fully grasp what was going on. But now that I look back on it, it's like, wow, what he did was so powerful that there were other kids that wanted and needed that in their life that they didn't get it. And their life took on a little different direction than mine did. And I think because of that, I had a lot of opportunities afforded me when I went in the military. There are a lot of people that stood up for me, helped me advance in certain areas of my career that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because they saw a different personality in me. They saw that respect that I learned, respect to authority. They saw that some sense of maturity in me. Military, you don't have senior and enlisted guys, interacting, especially in a social situation. But when I was in 29 Palms as a junior enlisted person, two of my best friends were officers. Socially we did things, but never at any time did I disrespect them in any official capacity. And even if we're in a social situation, did I ever disrespect and let on like, okay, I got a little privilege here because, that's I hang out with
Got
them.
a little too fancy.
Yeah. No, never.
Or taking what's the word I want to taking advantage
Vantage.
of your connection,
Right. And taking that connection for granted. You know, and so again, that falls back to understanding you have to respect the person that you're dealing with. You have to respect who that person is, what that person stands for. And when you show that, you would reap the benefit of what the world has for you. You would reap the benefit of people wanting to help you in situations that you need help. You know, and that only goes to people. People will see that in you. They will see a difference.
They'll gravitate towards
right,
it.
they're
Unknowingly sometimes.
Yes. There's a sense that people say, wait a minute. You know, I'm not afraid to call anybody I see that I'm walking to by a sir. How you doing today, sir? And it's because of a sense of respect. I want to tell that
And
person.
it's easy to do.
Yes, it's easy to do. I want to tell that person I respect you.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that a lot of my dad is, you know, that kind of respect for other people. And I saw that when he did that, people gravitated to him. And that's what I try to teach my boys is you have to show respect. You know, you respect yourself. You have to respect yourself.
So how much of your dad do you think you see in your kids unknowingly? Because I know a lot of what we pass on to our kids is intentional, and I know a lot of it is oh, I didn't know I taught you that, or because a lot of it is through emulation, right? They saw you do it, therefore they do it, but you don't know you're doing it. You're doing it because that's who you are. So how much would you say your kids represent what Grandpa probably taught you?
I think if I was to put a percentage on it, I would say easy better than 50%.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Easy better, because I really try to instill upon them the fact that there are certain principles in life that if you follow those principles in life, it will make life easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those principles were the ones that were instilled in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think based on what they're doing, I think they're emulating a lot of those principles. Some of those basic principles took hold. My eldest son especially, he, you know, if he has a point, he's dogged with it, you know. But he's dogged with it because of things that we go back to the research. You look things up, you understand, and you say, hey, okay, I strongly believe that his conviction is very strong in what he believes. And if it's something different, okay, show me. You know, show me what's different. Show me what I missed, kind of thing. And so I think there's a great deal that's been passed on. I think I've articulated more of those principles than my dad did. And that comes with the time.
Right.
You know.
Right.
They didn't articulate things like we do today. They just showed you or told you. It wasn't a teachable moment or anything like that. It was, okay.
And it may have had a lot to do with where we grew up too,
Right.
So I mean, I grew up in Paraíso, Ancon, which is a very small town compared to many things. So everybody knew everybody.
Right.
So
Right.
there a lot of times there wasn't a lot to be said, other than just knowing if you did something,
Right.
So and so saw you before you got home.
That phone was ringing.
Someone knew
ringing.
something.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of kind of situational awareness, intentionality again in what we did, because there was a lot of representation that we had to do with Grandpa being the way that he was.
Right.
A lot of people knew who he was, respected him. So there was a lot of, you are Crispin's grandson. They may not know my name,
but they knew who you were.
But that was who I was.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of to carry on your shoulders, but that was welcome, because I think you said it before. The amount of people that he attracted towards his orbit, unintentionally, right? People just gravitated towards towards him because they wanted to hear what he had to say, or he was the life of the party, or
He was willing to
had
help any and
anything.
everybody.
Your car is
Yes.
broke. Let's go find it. Let's go fix
Fix
it.
it.
Let's figure out what's and that was just who he was
Yeah. Yeah.
in everything they did. So the last corner I want to turn here is kind of ask you, with your military experience and exposure, do you feel that, just generally speaking, fathers who are currently in the military have additional complexities, if you will, in raising their kids than someone who did not serve in the military?
No, I would say.
So let me say this: there's a misconception, right? That when you serve in the military, you are gone or unavailable, or there's always some sort of movement. We're always at this base this week, or we're that base this week, and there may be some sort of a disruption to that process. I don't know that to be true. I don't have that exposure, but I'm sure there are those who served in the military that would be listening to this podcast that are probably curious as to how that kind of turns out.
Well, let's give you an example. When I was stationed in Japan, and I went to Japan a year before I was able to bring my family over, my wife and my eldest son, and because of the fact that it was the two of them, they grew real close together, and I was in my son, even though I wasn't going anywhere. I was stationed, and we were stationed in one location. And so I went to Japan, and I was there for a year before they got over, and they became real close. So when my son came over, when they both came over and to live in Japan with me, it took him an adjusting period back to me, because everything was dependent on mom, and mom and him again grew a close bond together. But I didn't change principles. The principles remained the same. So what I did was just gradual understanding that bond that was built. It was like, okay, I know you're my dad, but I haven't been with you for a year, and I've got to kind of get adjust. As a kid needs to adjust to that, and you just continue with the same. You don't give them nothing new.
Well, it's more. Do you think that the concept of when you're reunited, you're kind of picking up where you left off, but the kid has grown over a year's time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So in that, you made a point there. In that growth, now he's got to understand again, okay, what are those principles again? And my influences on the outside have taken on a different perspective now because of my growth. And do I still want to adhere to those principles that I was, were given to me when I was growing up at a younger age? So, yeah, that's a good point. That the kids have grown in that separation, but you have to be consistent to let them understand that, hey, this is the same rules.
I was just going to ask you how you deal with that, but it sounds, again, consistency.
Consistency, yeah. Consistency has to be there. And you've got the one thing that I understood. My dad was a dad, and I was a kid. He was a dad, and he has the authority, and I don't. And again, it's not an authoritarian. Is there's authority for his care over me, and I have to respect that. I may not agree with some of the things, and that not agreeing with some of the things that his authority is based not on anything that I can put my hands on other than outside influences that are coming at me.
And that was encouraged, right? To have a difference in opinion.
Right.
I mean, it may not be where you stayed, but at least it provoked an opportunity to be an independent thinker.
Right. Yeah. And again, if I could show him that this is why I felt differently about something, and like you said, I had the freedom to do that, but I had to be sure that this is why I felt like it was different. Show me why.
Yeah, you had to come armed with your research,
I can't just
right?
say I think I should do this because I feel like it. No,
yeah.
I have to do that.
Feelings aren't fact,
right.
is what Nicholas says to our kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to. That's one thing I grew up with is I had the freedom to do that and speak to him, but I knew I had to come armed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I didn't come armed, it's like.
Yep.
Shut it down.
I see the same quality in my dad as well growing up. And my mom's picked up a lot of that as well. She grew up with grandpa as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of, sure, approach us with different perspectives, try to change our minds,
Right.
but don't just show up half baked. You need to be very well prepared. And then if you change our mind, great. And as part of this podcast as well, I want to make sure people have an opportunity to hear different perspectives and say, yeah, I kind of like that. I should do that. Or we don't do that in our house. I don't have to. It's great that you do. I see why, right?
Right.
The purpose of this is not to change people's minds. It is just more to say we have a community, flip through the Rolodex and find out what works for you, what doesn't. Maybe you're facing the same issue and this is an aha moment for somebody.
Right.
Maybe it's just a confirmation of what they're doing today. That's like, okay, yeah, I'm not the only one that's doing that.
The one other area that's part of the foundation of what my dad taught me was there's a reason for everything. If something has occurred, there's a reason for it happening. Mm-hmm. Because we as kids would say, I don't know why. Mm-hmm. And again, my dad
Jacob
was
does that today.
Yeah, my dad was very good at giving you examples. And one day he asked me a question about why a certain thing happened. And I'm like, no, I didn't do that. It was, and he's like, and he just sat me down and we sat down in front of a rocking chair. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he says, is that rocking chair rocking? I said, no, Pop. No, Dad. And he touched it and moved it. He says, the rocking chair rocking? I said, yes, Dad. He says, I had to do something to get the result. So he taught me that everything that I get is a result of something either I did or somebody did. I can't sit back, especially if it's action that I took. I need to look within myself. Mm-hmm. What did I do to get what I got?
And even inaction is an action.
It is an action.
Yep.
If you know that you did, in your heart, you know you did something that brought you the things that you didn't want, don't wait for somebody to correct you. Mm-hmm. Correct yourself. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, in fact, most of the times people correct you is not going to be the way that you want it. You're not going to like it. If you say, you know what, I blew that. Mm-hmm. I know what I did. Correct yourself. Mm-hmm. The sooner you correct yourself, the quicker you're able to move on and do something, along the lines of what you need to be done. So that's another thing I try to instill in my boys based on the foundation laid is learn to correct yourself. I do that a lot in tennis and pickleball. Mm-hmm. If I miss a shot, I coach myself. I call it coaching myself. Why did I miss that shot? Was my stance right? Was my racket positioned correctly? Did I swing from high to low or low to high? Mm-hmm. I've looked within myself and says, what did I do wrong to get the results that I didn't want?
Exactly.
And then I says, don't do that next shot or the next 5 shots, next 10 shots. Look within yourself to find out what you did to get the results that you didn't want.
Or at least practice enough to be able to eventually.
Right. And unless it's something that you do constantly, daily, the pros are practicing hours and hours and hours a day, mm-hmm. and they're able to minimize those mistakes and those things. Okay, I had the rock and round position, that kind of thing. But for us that are not
Not
doing that
pros.
daily, right? Not pros and not doing that daily, we have to learn to. And I say it out loud to myself. Sometimes you have to say it out loud. You know, I'll be on the pickleball court and I would miss a shot, and I'll say it out loud, and they're like, I get this look, you know, because I'm talking. Sometimes you need to hear yourself
Out loud. Yeah.
out loud,
Yeah.
correcting yourself, so that it you know, this is hearing and reading amplifies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your correction or your learning.
Helps you focus.
It helps
Yeah.
you focus.
I agree.
So
All right. Well, listen, this was fantastic. I feel like I've learned through you a lot from, you know, how Grandpa was. And I see a lot of him every day, even in myself. I certainly see it in my dad. He was a significant part of my youth,
Yeah.
as well as Grandma. So we grew up with them the first 10 years of my life. So I feel like his power, if you will,
Yes.
is very generational.
yes,
It's very generational. So I'm excited to be able to continue to pass this down to Jacob. And a lot of it is unknowing, right? I'm doing
Right.
things that I've seen my dad emulate. And, you know, he's gotten that from his dad.
Yeah.
You've gotten it from your dad. So
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
coming from like one source. And then God knows who, you know, Grandpa got it from. I'm sure there's someone
Yeah.
going back. But this has been fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me in Houston
yeah, yeah.
to have this conversation. So I guess we'll talk more. I'm sure there'll be another opportunity for you to be on a podcast.
Definitely. This was awesome. This wasn't what I expected. It turned out to be wonderful.
It
turned out
always
to be
does.
great. It turned out to
Everybody's
be
always
great.
a little bit nervous, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, this was great."
Turned
So
out- I like the format. I like.
Do it. You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see that you'll never ever find somebody do it like